On the 14th of February 1939, 60,000 people, including government officials, military personalities, and dockyard workers, gathered at the Blon and Voss shipyard in Hamburg. At anchor in the harbour were the pocket battleship Admiral Günther, the light cruiser Nuremberg, and 3 vessels of the 4th Torpedo Flotilla. At 12:15 that day, the Führer of the Third Reich, Adolf Hitler, departed the Hotel Atlantic and boarded the Aviso Grill, the state yacht of Germany. Accompanied by a 21-gun salute from the Admiral Scheer, Hitler and his entourage crossed the Elbe to the Blon and Voss shipyard for the occasion of the launching of Germany's newest battleship, the Bismarck.
The largest battleship ever built in Germany is launched by the leader of the Third Reich and named after the founder of the Second Reich. She is christened by the granddaughter of Bismarck, who was the right-hand man of Kaiser Wilhelm, and 35,000 tons of glistening steel for the defense of Germany. Hesitates for a couple of moments and then moves down to the water. And only a few days later, His Majesty King George VI is to launch the battleship King George V. 35,000 tons of glistening steel for the defense of Britain.
Named after Otto von Bismarck, the Bismarck cost 196 million Reichsmarks to construct. Displacing 41,700 tons, or 50,300 tons at full load, the Bismarck had an overall length of 821.8 feet, a beam of 118 feet, and a draft of 30.6 feet. The ship was powered by 3 sets of Blom and Voss turbine engines, which each drove a 3-blade screw measuring 15.5 feet in diameter. The turbines provided enough power for the Bismarck to attain a speed of 30 knots. Designed to carry 3,200 tons of fuel oil, the ship could store 6,400 tons and, with additional fuel bunkers, the ship had the capacity to carry 7,400 tons of fuel. With 7,400 tons of fuel, Bismarck had a range of 8,525 miles if sailing at 19 knots. The Bismarck was every inch a battleship. Her armament consisted of a main battery of 8 15-inch guns in 4 twin turrets. The forward superfiring turrets were referred to as Anton and Bruno, while the aft superfiring turrets were known as Caesar and Dora. Capable of firing shells weighing 1,763.7 pounds over a distance of 22 miles, under optimal conditions it was possible for the turret crews to fire 3 salvos per minute. Each turret and barbette combined weighed 110 tons. Indeed, such was their weight that gravity alone kept them in place. The secondary armament consisted of 12 5.9-inch guns, which were mounted in 6 twin turrets. Bismarck also carried a vast anti-aircraft armament, comprised of 16 4.1-inch heavy anti-aircraft guns in 8 twin mounts, a light anti-aircraft armament of 16 1.46-inch guns in 8 double mounts, as well as 20 0.7-inch anti-aircraft machine guns housed in 12 single and 2 quadruple mounts. Bismarck was fitted with Krupp cemented steel armour. Equipped with an armour belt 13 inches thick which tapered to 8.7 inches at the bow and stern, the thickest armour plating was to be found over the central positions, where the gun turrets, magazines, and machinery spaces were located. The upper deck of the ship was 2 inches thick. Below the upper deck was an armoured deck which ranged between 3.9 and 4.7 inches in thickness amidships. The armoured deck tapered to 2.6 inches at the bow and 3.1 inches at the stern, and was mounted low in the hull, which reduced the volume of internal space protected by the armoured citadel. This design stood in contrast to contemporary British and American designs, which featured a single armoured deck mounted high in the ship. The ship's conning towers were also armoured. The forward conning tower was protected by up to 14 inches of armour, while the aft conning tower was protected by up to 6 inches of armour. Amidships, the Bismarck could carry and launch aircraft. Bismarck had the ability to carry up to 4 Arado AR-196 seaplanes for reconnaissance and patrol duties. The launching rails were located behind the stack. 2 single hangars were located either side of the funnel, while under the main mast was a 646 square foot main hangar, which could accommodate 2 aircraft. Following being launched, the Bismarck underwent fitting out in Hamburg before finally being accepted by the Kriegsmarine and commissioned under the command of Captain zur Ernst Lindemann. Born on the 28th of March 1894, Lindemann entered the Kaiserliche Marine, or Imperial German Navy, on the 1st of April 1913. A man of slender physique, with sharp, chiseled features, sparkling blue eyes, large ears, and straight hair, which was brushed back, which accentuated his appearance, Lindemann was viewed as an unselfish professional who possessed an exemplary zeal and concept of duty. During the Great War, he saw service on the elderly battleship Lothringen before being transferred in 1916 to the dreadnought Bayern. Awarded the Iron Cross First and Second Class for his service, by 1918 he stood 5th out of a class of 210 lieutenants. Known as a stern taskmaster, but also as a cool and level-headed individual, during the 1920s, Lindemann turned his attention to gunnery, alternating tours as the gunnery officer aboard the pre-dreadnoughts Hanover, Lass, and Schleswig-Holstein, with shore establishments on the Baltic Naval Station as well as on the naval staff in Berlin. Lindemann served as an instructor at the Naval Gunnery School at Kiel before being posted to the battleship Hessen and then to the pocket battleship Admiral Günther, aboard which he saw service during the Spanish Civil War. Promoted to Fregatten Captain in April 1936, he was promoted to Captain zur 2 years later. Following a brief stint at the Naval Gunnery School in 1939 to 1940, Lindemann was selected to command the new flagship of the Kriegsmarine. When she embarked upon her first operational deployment, the Bismarck would be under the operational command of Admiral Günther Lütjens. Lütjens stood as something of an exception amongst a generation of German officers starved of command experience. Born in 1889, he had joined the Kaiserliche Marine in 1907. A diligent and intelligent cadet, he progressed to officer rank and, at the outbreak of the Great War, was appointed to a torpedo boat squadron. Seeing service in the North Sea and English Channel, Lütjens fought several engagements against the British and French. Appointed as the commander of torpedo boats along the Flemish coast, he led raids on the 23rd of March 1917 against Dunkirk, fought in action against 4 British torpedo boats on the 2nd of May 1917, and later that same month led 5 of his boats into action against French destroyers. For his service during the Great War, Lütjens was awarded the Knight's Cross of the House Order of Hohenzollern, as well as the Iron Cross First and Second Class. Following the war, he remained in the Navy, now renamed the Kriegsmarine. During the 1920s, Lütjens built a reputation as an excellent staff officer. In 1935, the Kriegsmarine was remodeled and renamed the Kriegsmarine. Lütjens soon became acquainted with then Admiral, later Gross Admiral Erich Raeder, the head of the Kriegsmarine, as well as Vice Admiral Karl Dönitz, the commander of the U-boat forces. His capabilities and friendships led to promotion to Captain zur See and to being appointed to command the cruiser Karlsruhe, before, in October 1937, he was appointed to the rank of Konteradmiral. Subordinates to Lütjens saw him as something of an ascetic. He was described as undemonstrative and serious, although it was recognized that he possessed an incisive mind and that little escaped his notice. Lütjens was not the sort of leader who stamped his personality on a fleet or who attracted a retinue of loyal followers. Disciplined, analytical, and methodical, he expected other people to think and act with his own brand of precision, which they seldom did. Lütjens' actions were never impulsive. He was a thinker and a planner who had learned the benefits of keeping his options open until the point of decision had arrived. At the outbreak of the Second World War, he was the commander of scouting forces comprised of destroyers and torpedo boats, during which he led an attack against the Polish ships Gryf and Wisła in Gdynia harbour. In October, he led a raiding sortie into the North Sea to lay mines off the Humber estuary. Following this, he was promoted to Vice Admiral and moved with his staff to the cruiser Nuremberg. The end of the first week of April 1940 saw Lütjens flying his flag aboard the Gneisenau, as she and Scharnhorst sailed to provide cover to the forces assaulting Trondheim and Narvik during the invasion of Norway. As his ships provided distant cover, on the 9th of April they ran into the battlecruiser Renown, whereupon a running battle was fought before a rain squall and the superior speed of his ships allowed Lütjens to break contact. A few days later, on the 12th of April, the ships returned to Germany. On the 8th of June 1940, Gneisenau and Scharnhorst were at sea once more, this time under the command of Admiral Wilhelm Marschall, as they conducted Operation Juno. During the course of the day, they ran into the British aircraft carrier Glorious, which was sunk along with her two escorts, HMS Ardent and Acasta. During the engagement, Scharnhorst was damaged by torpedoes and was forced to put into Trondheim for temporary repairs, while Marschall continued at sea with Gneisenau in company with the Admiral Hipper. It was now that the storm over the operation broke. Marschall received few plaudits for the sinking of Glorious or her escorts, which was dismissed as being an extraordinary stroke of luck. In place of praise, Marschall faced censure for what was viewed as his mishandling of the operation, as well as tactical errors which resulted in damage to the Scharnhorst. He reported sick 10 days later and was relieved as Flottenchef, fleet commander, and replaced by Lütjens. Raeder regarded Lütjens as a sound tactician, an excellent staff officer, and a leader who possessed operational and battle experience. Candid about his decision to elevate Lütjens through the chain of command, Raeder later wrote,
"He had also experience in staff work, and as my chief of personnel, he had won by special confidence in years of close association."
January 1941 saw Lütjens flying his flag operationally aboard the Gneisenau as she and Scharnhorst embarked upon Operation Berlin. Although every effort had been made to enforce secrecy surrounding the operation and the sailing of the two ships, they were sighted by a British agent as they transited the Skagerrak, whereupon a report was made to the Admiralty in London, which in turn notified the Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Navy's Home Fleet, who immediately put to sea to intercept the ships as they transited the Iceland-Faroes Passage. Lütjens had planned on breaking out into the Atlantic via the Iceland-Faroes Passage, but the radar aboard Gneisenau picked up two radar contacts, which turned out to be British cruisers on patrol. Lütjens therefore decided to sail further northwards and to attempt to break out via the Denmark Strait. Following a rendezvous with a tanker on the 2nd of February, Gneisenau and Scharnhorst began their transit through the Denmark Strait, which was completed by the 4th. Having successfully broken through to the Atlantic, Lütjens decided to focus his efforts on the convoy route between Britain and Canada. It was a fortuitous choice, for on the 30th of January, 41 ships comprising convoy HX-106 had departed Halifax, bound for Liverpool. The convoy was, however, escorted by the battleship Ramillies, 5 destroyers, 3 corvettes, and 2 anti-submarine trawlers. On the 8th of February, lookouts aboard the German ships sighted smoke from HX-106 on the horizon. Lütjens manoeuvred his ships to attack from the north and south in the pincer move. Shortly thereafter, the vague outline of Ramillies was sighted, prompting Lütjens to abandon attempts to attack the convoy, his operational orders forbidding him to engage enemy capital ships unless absolutely necessary, and to not take unnecessary risks. Lütjens did meet with some success on the 22nd of February, however, when 5 unescorted merchant vessels were intercepted and sunk. Having met with this success, Lütjens elected to move to a new hunting ground near the Cape Verde Islands. On the 7th of March, a mast was sighted by lookouts aboard the Scharnhorst. Further investigation revealed the mast to belong to a battleship, which was identified as HMS Malaya. It was reasonable to assume that within the vicinity of Malaya would be a convoy. 2 hours later, the masts of 12 merchant vessels comprising SL-67 were sighted. Once more, Lütjens decided to adhere to his orders and not engage. Instead, 2 U-boats, U-124 and U-105, were guided into the convoy where they sank 6 ships, totaling 28,488 gross registered tons. Following this, Lütjens decided to head back out into the Atlantic. On the 9th of March, a Greek freighter was intercepted and sank. On the 11th of March, an order reached Lütjens from Naval Group West, ordering him to cease operations against Allied convoys on the 18th and to make for Brest on the French Atlantic coast. In the meantime, further success was met, with the 15th of March seeing 3 tankers sunk, while 3 others were captured and put under the control of prize crews. Convoy HX-114 was intercepted the following day. 9 merchant vessels were sunk. Another merchant ship, the Chilean Reefer, was intercepted and sunk that afternoon, but not before she succeeded in making a distress call, which was picked up by the battleship HMS Rodney, which arrived on the scene as Gneisenau made good her escape. Gneisenau and Scharnhorst refueled on the 18th of March and set course for Brest. At the time, Lütjens was unaware of the British dispositions. As far as he was aware, HMS Malaya was in the vicinity of the Cape Verde Islands, HMS Rodney was in the Atlantic, and various ships were operating out of Gibraltar. If Lütjens was uncertain as to the dispositions of the Royal Navy, the British were equally unsure as to the whereabouts of the German raiders. Fog on the 21st of March nullified British efforts to locate Lütjens and his ships, which entered Brest harbour around 0700 hours the following day. The arrival of the Scharnhorst and Gneisenau at Brest brought Operation Berlin to an end. The operation had lasted 60 days and saw the 2 ships cover 17,800 miles, a record for German capital ships. During the course of the operation, 22 merchant vessels totaling 112,690 gross registered tons were sunk or captured. Following arriving at Brest, Lütjens and his staff set about packing their bags in preparation for a return to Germany, where they had orders to join the Bismarck for a new operation.
Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more updates, like and share. You can also help to support the channel at Patreon. Details are in the description box below.